Hey, what's up, and welcome to One Take. I'm your host, Daniel, and I'm here with my brother,
Gil.
Now, you may be wondering, why is Daniel hosting? Normally, Gil is the face, voice, and soul of One Take, but we're in my apartment. My rules. I'm hosting.
Big changes coming to One Take. The whole studio right now is in a bunch of boxes. We're moving to ideally, once the move is done, viewers won't even notice a difference. But in the meantime, we're streaming out of his apartment. And later I'll be calling in to hack the movies, where I think I'll be streaming from a phone booth.
Very exciting. So today we're going to talk about Black Mirror and a bunch of other stuff. Gil and I have both returned from vacations. We have a bunch of adventures, interesting things to talk about. But first, before we jump into any of that, Gil, I'm a little concerned.
Why?
Do you know what I'm concerned about?
No.
Hopefully we're still alive by the end of this live stream. Right before we started recording, we noticed that my air purifier was going off the fritz. It started operating super intensely and loudly. That thing is automatic. It picks up when there are contaminants, and that's what causes it to go into overdrive.
We are the contaminants. It's trying to kill us.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
My friend and his wife, it's both their fault, didn't clean the air purifier, and they both got really sick.
Wow. Actually, I do have a good habit of cleaning the air purifier, and I bought extra filters and all that stuff, and I follow a strict process now to take care of it. And so that thing was definitely trying to keep us alive, and we turned it off right before the stream.
Well, that should get us a lot of views if the life slowly drains from our eyes on live stream.
Let's change the title of this thumbnail to "Watch the One Take Boys Die Slowly."
What do you think people are here for? Black Mirror season 6 or and more?
I think they're here for the and.
All right. Daniel, take it away.
Black Mirror. What did you think, Gil?
I would say that I have not been a huge fan of Black Mirror since the first couple of seasons. Like, I love the first couple of seasons, maybe season 3 as well. I think that's where they did the John Hamm Christmas episode. Since then, I've kind of fallen off the wagon, partly because I felt like some of what they were doing got old. The quintessential example for me is that museum episode where it just felt like another riff on here's how many different ways we can take a consciousness and shove it into a small device. And isn't that creepy and uncomfortable that this consciousness is trapped here? And I'm like, yeah, it is, just like it was the first 10 times you did it. And I should say, we're going to do spoilers for Black Mirror season 6.
All of Black Mirror.
Yeah, all of Black Mirror. I keep wanting to say Blade Runner. I'm not sure why, but maybe because that's what I'd rather talk about. Just kidding. No, so I'll say I was not a big fan of the last few seasons of Black Mirror. And I actually thought this one was a step up from the previous season, but I was still pretty mixed on it. And we talked a little bit earlier about why we weren't huge fans of it. But I think what it mainly comes down to is it's not previous seasons I felt showed me things where I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. That's really interesting. Or it would take some idea that maybe you've thought about a little bit, but then carry it to its conclusion that you didn't see coming. But it all feels very logical. One of the best examples I always come back to is where they install those little lenses that track all of your memories. And I've always thought probably at some point in the future, Google Glass, the new Apple AR thing, at some point we'll actually be able to do that. So this felt like a very real idea, but then it carries it to conclusions that feel scarily possible that I hadn't thought about, which made it extra disturbing. I felt like this new season, some interesting stuff, but none of it really surprised me. I didn't mind the changes in tone and genre. In principle, we'll get into all that stuff, though, I assume. You know, you're the host. We'll see if you take us there.
We'll see. We'll see where we go. I used to describe Black Mirror as my favorite show. And I was looking over the history of Black Mirror, trying to understand, like, when did that change? And basically, I mean, that was almost like 10 years ago when Black Mirror first premiered. I think it was 2012. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. I know it's been a while.
It's back then, after that first season, I would have said it was my favorite show. And then we had White Christmas, the John Hamm episode, which I think was season 2 or 3. And then ever since then, basically like extremely downhill, I think. I felt I can't even really say whether this season was better than the previous one, because as I looked over the episode history, all I tried to think about was which are the episodes I even remember. And there were so many memorable ones at the beginning. And then all the recent episodes just, I feel totally just faded away from memory, because none of them, to your point, like none of them took any unique perspectives anymore. And that's what I felt like about this entire season was there was just no interesting, unique take. And I'll give one example. The episode I hated the most. Do you know which one it is?
I don't know. Joan is awful.
No,
Lockhart.
to be honest, Joan is awful. I think I might rank higher. I might rank that the highest of this season. The one I hated the most was the space one with Aaron Paul.
Okay.
So to me, that's a great example of what I think has gone wrong with this show. Is there's not an interesting sci-fi concept in that show. The idea of the robots being on Earth and them being up in space, not that interesting of a concept. Maybe you could have done something interesting with it. I would say it's the only episode this season that had a remotely interesting sci-fi concept, and it's just not even an interesting one.
Let me just pause you right there, because you're saying that episode 1, Joan is awful, did not have an interesting sci-fi concept?
Sorry, that one did.
Okay.
That one did. We might have to go through each episode to make sure my take is somewhat accurate.
Yeah.
But I would say not a very interesting sci-fi concept. And then we were talking before this about how you need to trust the creators of the show to sort of take care of you, right? Which is like, hey, I'm going to take you to some dark places, some really dark places, but trust me, it's worth it. That episode to me was the ultimate Black Mirror episode where they took you to extremely dark places for no reason, for no payoff. To me, it was gratuitous and cruel. I think what they did to us as an audience in that episode, I still like for a long time, I don't know, I watched the episode like a week and a half ago. I still think about that episode almost every day. And it just gives me this sick feeling with no benefit. We watched a character. First of all, we watched one family get brutally murdered, right, by sadists. And then we watched another guy's family get brutally murdered by a guy who just descended into sort of madness, right? Just disgusting, cruel, for no reason. There was no interesting, like, oh my God, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
What does this say about our world? Nothing interesting like that in this episode. I felt like there was no reason to bring us to that dark place. To me, it was just cruel with no redeeming quality whatsoever.
Okay. So, well, I feel like there's two things colliding at the same time. One, we keep coming back to this same topic of how much responsibility does a creator or artist have in taking you to dark places? Because you in particular, you get upset sometimes.
I do. I get easily upset by movies when they do, when bad things happen.
If you feel like they're making you feel bad for no reason, it upsets you. Now, I will say, I guess let's put that aside for a second. First, would you say you didn't enjoy the episode? You didn't find, because I actually thought it was a pretty interesting sci-fi concept. The idea of having these avatars on Earth. I mean, you have to admit, when you started watching that episode and you weren't sure what's going on, no part of you was like, this is like, what's the thing here? And at first, when you see them getting in that bed, I was wondering, is this them entering a simulation? And then we slowly find out they're controlling robots on Earth. And I thought it was cool how that was slowly revealed without being outright explained. Even simple things, just when he's becoming intimate with his wife, you notice that the entire exchange seems to be very one-sided, no reciprocation, but then you find out why, and you slowly start to realize it. So I thought that was actually, I would say, I thought the whole season overall was, from a technical standpoint, pretty well crafted. Some of my issues with it are more in the writing and just also some personal taste. No, but you don't agree on a visceral level. You were saying the A to Z, the entire episode, you weren't enjoying.
No, so in general, I agree it was well crafted for the most part. And I think the main issues were with the writing. I agree with that. That episode, I was intrigued for maybe the first like 20 minutes. I think once we understood the central mystery, I was very uninterested anymore. And I also felt it was extremely predictable. Like we sort of knew where it was going. There was like a long stretch in that episode where I felt we kind of knew what it was building up to.
Well, we knew it was building up to him, not Aaron Paul, the other guy, also a famous actor. Can't remember his name right now, but we knew that he was going to start getting too close to Aaron Paul's wife. but we didn't know he was going to slaughter his family.
We didn't know that specifically. I mean, this sounds lame. I was gonna say we knew something bad was gonna happen. Obviously, something bad was gonna happen. It did feel like I felt for a while that that character was gonna do something horrible.
I thought he was going to maybe take over Aaron Paul's life, like kill Aaron Paul in the spaceship, then take over his life on Earth. But then we kept saying that while watching, and then remembering, oh, wait a minute, they had that line. It's a 2-person ship. You need the 2 of them. Like, they set up a pretty interesting dilemma where you can't really think of a great way out. And like, they both, one cannot abandon the other. They need each other.
Yeah.
So you wonder where it's going to go.
I think the other issue is another thought I had is when you make a film or a TV show like really difficult to watch, like when you make it really painful, I think naturally you want to escape from it. And so I think like the film or the show needs to do a really good job of immersing yourself in it. And I think this was another show where they gave me a lot of escape hatches to pull myself out of it. And what I mean by that is the things that violate the realism. For example, why didn't they just send the robots on the ship instead of the humans? Right. Like that was a thought that like, as I'm watching a show, we've both talked about this. We don't try to take ourselves out of it. I don't try to predict what's next, but like that to me was such a glaring hole. I couldn't avoid it. And I think I especially couldn't avoid it because to me, it was like, I wasn't enjoying myself. And so I think I just sort of wanted an out. Another one, this is really stupid, but it's like, look, you can perfectly recreate a human, but you can't recreate them under their, waist. Like it just seems silly to me. Like they recreated everything else perfectly.
Right.
And then another element was like, they can't build him another one. Oh, because he was on Earth and they built it perfectly for him.
You forgot to save a copy.
Yeah. Like, okay. Yeah. You forgot to save a copy. You forgot to build a spare. Like it just, there were so many elements of it that just seemed just so stupid.
Or I could buy that it's almost like unlocking the mysteries of the human brain, like to get it to perfectly synchronize with your actual brain. Maybe we don't understand the inner workings of the mind. So we can only sort of copy. We can't just build one from scratch. But even if that's your argument, just take some other random person and essentially borrow their likeness, make a new body for him to take over. Or the fact that Aaron Paul and Josh Hartnett, the fact that the 2 of them had to come to this gentleman's agreement of like, let's share my body. I feel like NASA would have proposed that, been like, it's like, obviously if someone is trapped on a spaceship alone and they can never leave, but the guy they're with can, so obviously a recipe for disaster, NASA would have to step in with at least some kind of psychological protocol, at least get him someone to talk to on Earth or do something.
That was another glaring hole. It's just like, where was NASA or whoever was running this mission? Like we never once saw any type of mission control or anything. And that felt like a glaring hole to me.
Yeah. So I'll say I don't come down as strong on the episode, but here was my experience with it. There was a good deal of it where I was very into the idea. I thought it was interesting, and I was very curious to see how it would play out. There was a long stretch of the episode where I did start to feel a little antsy, like, okay, we know where this is going. We know Josh Hartnett is going to start to get too close with Aaron Paul's wife. We know that's coming. And then at the end, with the big twist, I feel mixed about it. There's a part of me that gets frustrated. But it was also pretty effective. Like I can't get the sequence out of my head when Aaron Paul walks out of the chamber and then Josh Hartnett just kicks the chair out and he's like, join me at the table. It's such an odd choice. It's not what I expected. Like you're waiting for them to start screaming at each other or for him to start sobbing. And I just thought that was an interesting choice and it's really stuck with me. Now, whether or not that tragedy was there for any purpose, Booker, the creator of the show, I'm sure he would have a purpose. In fact, I've heard a little bit of what he had to say about it. He wrote that episode partly inspired by COVID and lockdowns and what happens to somebody when they're all locked up like many of us were. And I know someone's going to comment, congratulations to the person who commented that wasn't locked up and they left whenever they wanted to. Bravo. But a lot of people were, or at least felt like they couldn't leave. So it was written from that mindset. And he's kind of highlighting, like, look what that does to you. Or Josh Hartnett losing his family. Where does that take him? Loneliness poisons the soul, right? You can shake your head at that, but I'm saying there was a purpose. It might just not have been enough for you.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think every episode had a purpose. They were all trying to say something, but it goes back to what we said earlier, where it's just, do we find that thing very novel or interesting? And I think from Black Mirror, we've gotten used to, or at least we used to be used to them saying something pretty interesting or putting a new spin on something. Like even Joan is Awful, pretty cool idea, but it's also the whole simulation within a simulation idea is one we've talked about so many times, that to make that sort of a twist toward the end of the episode where you don't get much time to explore it, and all you're really doing is saying simulation within a simulation. You and I have talked about that so much. So it's not really a novel idea. So I'm kind of numb to it. So, I mean, like many of the episodes this season on the Aaron Paul episode, I would say some stuff I admired about it, but overall, yeah, mixed.
Yeah. It just reflecting on that episode, it's like all it left me with was a sick feeling and nothing else.
Which people would say, you chose to watch Black Mirror.
That's fine though. I mean, other episodes left me with a lot more, right? Like if I think about, let's take the entire History of You episode, right? Where the guy, you know, everyone has those lenses and stuff. I don't remember a sick feeling. I remember, wow, like what an interesting concept and what a scary future potentially.
Right.
Like that's what I remember. And I feel that's it. And there's emotions associated with that, but that's much more intellectual and like integrated and whole. Like there's a real message that stuck with me. And I felt the episode has something interesting to say. When an episode, and again, there's personal preference there, but if an episode just leaves me with a sick feeling and nothing else, to me, I think that's just cruel. And I don't think it's doing anything valuable.
And the cautionary tales also felt very imminent, like the lens that will record all of your memories. Like that feels like, oh man, that could happen in the next couple of years. Oh, I would also just respond to what you said about kind of the plot holes and things like that. I agree with what you said. A lot of times people will defend a show or a movie and say it's the kind of show or a movie where you got to turn your brain off.
That's not Black Mirror.
No, it's not. But my point is that my default is that my brain is turned off in the sense that I don't go in with the attitude of it's Gil versus the show. I'm not looking for plot holes or inconsistencies, but we all have a different sensitivity and a threshold to it where if it's so glaring that you can't ignore it, it might take you out of the show. And I would say with the Aaron Paul episode, nobody from NASA talking to them about how to share this body or not having the idea until weeks into it, where the first thing I thought was, well, you only have one vessel to visit Earth. Of course, share it. And the one you brought up, why can't you have the robots in space and the people on Earth? But once that occurs to you, it's hard to just shut that part of your brain off. And I would say there were a few things this season that made me feel that way, where I'm like, well, even in Joan is Awful, like they're making a show based on your life. And
can I predict what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Okay, how do they get the details on her life? They explicitly explain it. It's her phone. When the phone's on, like face down, it's recording everything. Not once does it occur to her to just turn off her phone when she realizes that's the premise of how they're tracking her and creating the show.
You can't turn your phone off, man. We're too addicted these days.
Like I could not get that out of my head. I was like, that really annoyed me.
That's not even where I was going to go. So let's assume that.
But that's a good point, right?
It is a good point. And
or just delete the app. It's the app that's tracking you.
Let's assume that they have some way to do it. That they have like, okay, it's your neighbor's phone. Microphones are so sensitive these days. They can hear through the walls and figure out what you're up to. Let's just assume there's a way.
Oh, wait, actually, sorry. There's a weird contradiction where they said they're getting it from the microphone, but then it's actually a quantum computer that's basically simulating everything. So then they really only need to get like the initial conditions from the recording, right? I guess it doesn't really need to record you anymore. It's sort of predicting what's happening. Okay, so that's my solution.
Retracted.
That's what is actually happening. Okay, what were you going to say?
Okay, so your problem is that they keep turning everything you do and turning it into a TV show. So as a backlash to that, well, now I'm talking myself into getting this. When she takes all the laxatives.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was like, my first inclination would be to do nothing. Like, what if I just sit in my apartment and eat chips all day? But I guess she was trying to piss off, who's the actress?
Salma Hayek.
Yeah, she was trying to get her so annoyed at what was being done with her image. So I guess I could see why they did that.
The other complaint.
But I will say this.
Yeah.
I just didn't find it funny. It's not my sense of humor. And I feel like you were meant to laugh a lot during that episode.
Do you think so?
A lot of the reviews I saw, the 2 or 3 I looked at, were saying how funny an episode it was.
I didn't find it that funny. One complaint I had, but I was going to retract as well, is like the whole show, that whole episode, Joan is Awful, felt super like on the nose, and like it felt like you were watching a TV show. But I then forgave it for that because, oh, you were watching a TV show. And that was sort of the point. And I think you were supposed to have this sort of surreal feeling the whole time, like you were watching a TV show, because it turned out, yeah, like Salma Hayek was in a TV show, and then Annie Murphy was the one we're watching was actually the actress playing that role, right? Like that reveal, I actually kind of liked that.
Yeah.
And it made the whole thing feel, I don't know, it felt a little better to me. And I was generally like, I was entertained. I was intrigued during that episode. I thought it was a cool concept.
So you like, that was your favorite this season, you'd say?
I think so, which I'm very surprised by. And by the way, is like, does not say good things about the season, that was my favorite one.
I think that is the general consensus, that people really like that episode. I think in part because it feels the most like Black Mirror of the 5 episodes, just in terms of taking a weird sci-fi concept.
Yeah. And it's going to happen. Like, I totally believe we're going to have deep fake, customized TV shows for us. I don't know that they're going to be based on our real lives, but the idea that we're going to have shows that are curated and created by an AI specifically for us, totally buy it.
Yeah. I am skeptical of how soon that's going to come.
Yeah.
I've said in a couple of live streams that I think language learning models have created the false impression that, what do they call it? Artificial generalized intelligence. That's the idea that you can have actual thinking AI that could potentially outperform us. I feel like now we've had AI, like Tesla, those cars drive themselves via AI. Now that AI can talk, it gives the illusion that it's a lot smarter than it is, kind of like apes that use sign language, right? You're like, they're talking. But I think what they did on Black Mirror with like generating shows, I feel like it's not around the corner. It's further down the line. But maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'm in a show right now.
I also think generating shows that are just addictive is closer than generating shows with like a real artistic, depth to it.
Right.
And that's sort of what the show they were creating in the show was. And so I think I think that future is nearer, but yeah, I still think it's pretty far away.
Yeah. And by the way, we have a Lun here in the chat. That's our brother. He's sometimes on camera with us. He's talking about the Aaron Paul episode, and he's defending why they couldn't send the robots to space, why the robots had to be on Earth.
It's because they needed their blanks on the spaceship. It's like critical in some way to run the spaceship.
That's right. There's certain
anatomical features that are critical to...
Alun says maybe whatever they're doing on the ship is so important, they can't risk robots that may malfunction and become unusable. I think that's the reason. That's probably it. You retract your criticism?
No, I won't, but that seems like a plausible explanation.
Yeah, maybe they should have said that on the show.
I'm so opposed to this episode that even valid points, I'm just not going to concede.
Well, your main problem, I would say you would have overlooked any of these quote unquote plot holes. You just have a problem with the concept and what they did with the end.
I told you my compound would take you places. I didn't say they'd be places you want to go.
Scarecrow.
Yes.
Batman Begins.
It's just the show did not take me places I wanted to go.
Yeah. I will say, we're being very negative. Like I said, I was mixed on the season. There was still a part of me each time I went to the next episode. I wanted to know, well, what are they going to show me this time? Like, what weird, interesting thing am I going to see? And I finished the season with a bit of disappointment, but I didn't hate it all the way through.
Yeah, like here's something we didn't expect to see. Werewolves. Boom. Yeah, what did you think?
I did not hate that episode. I actually thought it was kind of cool. So I will say, so again, some of this comes down to just subjective taste. I love genre curveballs. I love the idea, and people don't often do it. But if you can get someone to, I love the idea of bringing in supernatural elements in a place where it's totally unexpected.
Yeah.
Black Mirror has years of a track record behind it, so you would never expect this to happen. Anytime something seems like it might be supernatural, you get a technological explanation for it. And it wasn't just there for its own sake. Like we said earlier, I think every episode of the season had something to say. And here they're commenting on our obsession with celebrity and how We want to know everything about them. We want to invade their privacy and get involved in situations where we don't know what's going on. When we see the reporting, you know that large portions of it must be inaccurate, exaggerated, missing context. Here, they're missing the ultimate context. She's a werewolf. So they're actually using the supernatural for something that makes sense. And I also thought they pulled off the werewolf in an interesting way. I've never seen it that vicious before. It felt like just such chaos every time anyone got near it. I've never seen a werewolf that powerful. I like the episode. It might be, I think a lot of people are saying it's the worst of the season. It might have been my favorite, honestly.
I was really entertained. Like, I was super entertained during that episode. The curveball was exciting. One thing, it bothered me a little bit that it wasn't really foreshadowed in any way. I didn't think. Like, it just makes me feel a little cheated. The only foreshadowing that I guess Twilight fans picked up on. Did you read about this?
Was it the oh, you know what? I was watching with my girlfriend, and when the Muse song came on, she was like, "Oh, that's from Twilight, the vampire movie." And I was like, "Shut up! Vampires, werewolves? This is Black Mirror. This has nothing to do with any of that."
Yeah, so supermassive black hole apparently played during some like infamous scene in Twilight that featured werewolves, and so that was like a subtle. Although I think the one of the writers actually claimed they didn't intentionally do that, but it might have just been like a subconscious, like for some reason they associated that song.
Yeah,
it's a little hard to believe. But yeah, I guess that was some foreshadowing. I don't know. How do you feel about something in an episode, like in a story, where it's just completely out of left field and there's no way to have predicted it?
Okay, let me think. So if you were to ask me out of context just that question, I would say it's a balancing act of if you can surprise, the more surprising you can be while at the same time making it feel inevitable when you look back. Oh, of course, this is how it went. That's the ideal scenario. I will say, yeah, on the spot, if I think back on the episode, I'm having a hard time recalling if there were any clues that pointed in that direction. But I can't honestly say it bothered me in the moment. So I don't know. What does that mean?
It did bother me in the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, as she was turning into a werewolf, I was like, oh. And then they like showed a quick flashback that like there was a wolf there. And it's like, oh, okay. Like the way you filmed it, you just skipped part of the scene. Like you purposefully cut that scene to make it look like a hit and run, when instead, she actually, I guess she got out of the car and got like bitten by the werewolf. I don't know. It just made me feel tricked, but it's entertained generally, but it made it feel a little cheap to me.
What if if I were to edit the episode and just add like 2 dots on her neck where she was clearly bit, and then just do some ADR, like some the term ADR, Daniel?
No.
Amateur hour. That's where they do the voiceover after you've already filmed it. So like if someone's wearing a mask in a movie, like Deadpool, for example, after they've filmed, they can just record additional lines, ADR. So I can ADR some lines in there where she's like, "Ugh, I'm feeling pretty hungry. Like I could eat someone, maybe."
I would appreciate that very much.
It's a great episode. Guy Incognito in the chat says, "I disagree with your opinions, and it's thrown me into a blind fury. Can I guess where we disagree?" I said that I liked this episode. Guy Incognito is like, "I love the episode. Best episode of Black Mirror ever. You have not given it enough praise. How dare you?"
I wonder if the fury that Guy Incognito is feeling is actually a werewolf inside of him. Maybe he was bitten.
No, it's not foreshadowed enough.
It's not?
I don't like that.
I don't know. He's been seeming peckish, hungry in other episodes.
Don't activate my Siri. So the 5th episode, by the way, you know how it said, do you mind that I just did that swerve? I know you're the host today.
I'm the host.
Yeah.
Let me just regain control very quickly. Gil, what did you think of the 5th episode?
So it had that at the beginning presented by, they called it a red mirror picture, which I thought was a cool concept. And actually a good way to say, look, it's going to be a different kind of episode. Don't get mad at me. Which is something I deal with a lot, because behind the scenes, I've often had a one-take identity crisis. We're like, what is one take? We've got to find some consistent theme so the videos aren't all over the place. One week you're talking about Spider-Man, and next week you're a couple of kooks talking about UFO whistleblowers. That was our Red Mirror episode. Apparently, the show creator was contemplating an actual spin-off series or a companion series called Red Mirror, where I guess the concept would be more supernatural based episodes. I didn't love the episode. I thought it was, I mean, all the stuff we said earlier. I just didn't think, first off, if having seen Knock at the Cabin very recently, it felt like a very familiar plot. And it was just the same stuff we were saying before. It just didn't do anything all that interesting to me. And I felt a lot of, why aren't the characters just doing blank? Like, she eventually accepts, I do need to go kill someone. But you would definitely ask for more information. Be like, why? Like, you briefly mentioned the incantation, but like, that's crazy. You're saying if someone gets blood on that, then the world will end unless I kill 3 people. Like, I want more information. And I feel like one thing I love about Black Mirror that we talked about earlier is they take this interesting concept, like we keep using the example, but the little lens that records memories, and it's like they take it to its logical conclusion. And here I felt like we weren't going to a logical conclusion. We were going to the ending that they wanted. It just didn't do anything all that interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, it was hard to totally buy into the characters. It's like the demon explains, right, that he is going to get sent into a void for eternity. He describes it's pretty bad. I didn't feel like he tried that hard, right? Yeah. Like, don't you feel like she tells him, shoo, go away, and he's just like, okay. Like, also, he can see the future and stuff. Now, I get that she's, I guess, changing the future once he tells her the future, but it's like, I feel like he could have helped her out a little bit more. Like, once she was committed to killing that politician dude, like, I don't know, like, help her out with the plan a little bit. It really did not feel like he tried hard to avoid, being sent into the void for all of eternity.
Yeah, it reminded me of, for Better Call Saul fans out there, Saulcast. I won't go into any spoilers. I'm going to be really careful with spoilers.
I have an idea. I'll say after.
Okay. Sometimes you're trying to warn somebody against doing something, and you speak in code. You're like, I'm telling you, they're not going to like this. And I feel like people can be convinced, but they need a little more than that. And so when he's trying to convince her, like you said, it doesn't feel like he's trying that hard. Now, I will say, I did think it was a pretty funny episode.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines is when he was trying to explain to her, ladders kill more people every day than you're going to kill. You would be less lethal than a ladder. And some of what we and you, primarily you, some of what you're complaining about, I think is explained because we're partly living in a comedy. So sometimes you're going to sacrifice logic and, the underlying rules for comedy. And oftentimes in the episode, I thought that worked.
Yeah, I thought the 2 main characters were just funny. Like, the interactions were funny.
She was a great character too.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to put somebody in this situation where they need to kill people, the more kind of meek you can make them, the more of a contrast you're going to have when she goes from one end to the other. And it was really interesting to watch that struggle.
I liked when she's like, I killed someone. And he's like, yeah, that was hours ago.
Yeah.
He's like, let's move on already.
I guess it was, you know what? I guess as we're talking about it, I'm like, mixed, I guess. Like I had been for the whole season. I thought it was some good stuff.
That episode was funny. Yeah. It was definitely entertaining. It was an entertaining episode. Wait, I had an idea. Oh yeah. Okay. The guy can see the future, right? Maybe this violates the rules. This isn't a complaint. Interesting idea is he should have just seen like, okay, what's an old person that's going to die tonight? Let's just kill him before they die.
Right. He tried that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I can see she dreams of death and all this stuff. I felt like the main character did not consider that idea enough.
Yeah.
That's what I would, in that situation, I would have definitely done that.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have gone.
Although I don't want a bunch of ageist comments now. Literally, I would find people who are dying that night, kill them a few minutes early.
No, who were also evil.
No, it doesn't. That's way too narrow, though. You think you're going to find someone like that?
I would try more than 6 minutes before midnight.
They did make it seem like everyone was evil. Like everyone she sees was just horrible.
Yeah. Well, yeah. A guy's out walking the dog.
Yeah.
And like, it just so happens like that guy is super evil.
Yeah. And I was thinking that, okay, he's probably lying to her, but that was an interesting twist that it seems like it's possible he had isolated lies. We don't know, but it's sort of implied he's been honest with her the whole time.
Yeah, they found a good way to show that because he's like, that guy over there murdered his wife. But you're familiar with his work.
Another way they showed it was when she kills that other guy and she begs to know, like, who was he? And he's like, he was a normal person.
Yeah.
Right. If he was willing to lie, he would have just said, yeah, horrible dude. You got lucky.
Yeah. Cool.
Felt bad for that guy.
Yeah, no, he was a weirdo. So.
No, he was just brothers who, man, they really made you hate the guy who killed his wife, though. Man, did they do a good job of making him just revolting in every way.
Oh, God.
Really,
yeah.
like, it must feel horrible to be the actor chosen to play that role.
Unless he put on
yeah.
Well, but I don't want to say that his weight was why he came off as creepy. It was the behavior.
The behavior added a lot. And the look, I mean, obviously they did a ton to just make him look really creepy. And his whole behavior, yeah.
Made him wear glasses. Ew.
Ew, gross.
I'm just salty right now because obviously I'm in the middle of a move. That's why I said that. The studio's in boxes right now. Haven't been able to find my glasses.
Oh, yeah.
So I've just been swimming in a blur the last few days.
During my trip, I bought sunglasses. I've never owned sunglasses before.
Yeah, I did know that.
Game changer, having sunglasses. Basically, like when it's bright out, you put them on, it's not as bright. Brought to you by Ray-Bans.
And yet you're complaining that Black Mirror isn't showing anything like groundbreaking enough for you. Meanwhile, you're just discovering like UV
$40 sunglasses. I have a story to tell.
Wait, just anything more on Black Mirror?
Yeah. We still have more stuff to cover. Right. I'm sorry.
Take it away.
What else about Black Mirror? Did Guy Incognito have anything interesting to say while I check out my notes?
Favorite part of that episode was watching the creepy guy flirt. Let me wash up down there. I wish I had that absolutely unearned confidence. Guy Incognito, I think you can be like that guy one day if you put your mind to it.
Okay. Loch Henry.
Yeah.
That was the episode in Scotland.
That was the murder mystery one.
Yeah.
I think I called the werewolf one that.
Yeah. What did you think of Loch Henry?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was solid.
What?
I just feel like I don't have any real strong opinions on some of the Black Mirror stuff this season. But I've seen a lot of people put that in a similar category as not fitting the Black Mirror theme. I would say it does. It doesn't use any sci-fi or advanced technology or anything, but it is commenting on our relationship with technology and the recent trend of everyone being obsessed with true murder things.
So I thought it was generally an entertaining episode. I thought it was intriguing. I thought the storyline was a very sort of typical horror movie, murder mystery horror movie, right? Like the twist and all that stuff I felt was pretty predictable and bland, which is fine because they're trying to make this general commentary about murder mystery, true crime. My issue was what? Was there a funny message?
I don't know. Vincent says, I need a friend.
We'll be your friend.
I think, Guy Incognito.
Oh, yeah. They should link up. But my point was just that what I was going to say is this episode was just, I guess I didn't find that commentary interesting either. Is of course, true crime documentaries are exploitative.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's just obvious. Yes. You're turning real people's pain into entertainment. To me, that's just so obvious that I just found it completely uninteresting.
Right. Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, I thought it was a solid, if you put the writing aside and put the underlying concept aside, I thought it was executed solidly. I was actually entertained for much of that episode. I was like, wow, twist. His parents. Didn't see that coming. The one part that really bugged me is that she died because she tripped and hit her head, which I guess it's the kind of thing. I mean, it's happened. It's definitely happened in real life. I don't know. It just didn't land for me.
Yeah. Is Vincent saying something? What's he saying?
Well, I'm just going to ban him.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask. Yeah. I could only see it from far away. But
Guy Incognito has requested a different friend.
Yeah, I can't really see the message as well, but I felt he was potentially saying something ban worthy. Is he banned completely?
He's
now?
banned, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Maybe I'll just ban Guy Incognito while I'm at it, just to be safe.
Guy Incognito, you have 10 seconds to convince us not to ban you.
No, Guy Incognito, don't say it.
He's unbannable.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's a great person.
Yeah. Okay.
Should we? I kind of just want to end on saying great things about Guy Incognito. Right. No, anything else about Black Mirror? Let me take another quick look at my notes.
The only note I wrote down was that I like that line about the ladder. Yeah. Partly because I bought a ladder last night, so they've been on my mind.
Oh, okay. I have to say, the Joan is Awful episode, I liked the random cameo from Michael Cera and him just explaining everything and being annoyed that they're not understanding it. I thought that was very amusing. Like the whole end to that episode, I thought was funny.
How much do you think it's that the season is of lower quality versus it's just no longer to your taste as much?
I think it's both.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. That is one thing I've been struggling with is,
Yeah.
for example, the true crime thing. To me, I just have no interest in true crime. So maybe that's part of why that message was obvious and boring to me. Whereas maybe there are people who are like actually watching a lot of true crime. They're really into it. Like this might have emotionally impacted them in a way that does make them see true crime differently. That's possible.
Maybe. I mean, there could be some dumb people out there.
Hey, that's not what I mean. That is not what I mean.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. And I think, though, if you were to, the thing about true crime is that a lot of people think, oh, I'm not really interested in that. But you watch one episode and you get hooked.
Yeah.
Like the Serial podcast. I feel like that was kind of the start of the whole craze. And even me, of all people, Daniel, I got hooked into that because it is addictive.
Yeah. And again, true crime in the same way that I don't like watching just sort of sinister, dark things that don't have an interesting message. I've never been interested in true crime. I never listen to Serial. I never I'll read like history, like dark histories about like war and things like that. But I don't know, for some reason, crime has just never appealed to me in the same way that horror basically never appeals to me. So clearly there is a big element here that is just personal preference.
I just love that I don't like seeing dark things. I don't like horror. I don't like feeling bad. Let me see about this Black Mirror show. Let's see if season 6 lands for me.
Hey, I liked the first seasons. I did. Again, I'm willing to go somewhere dark if I feel like there's value in it. And that's why I like reading like history. Like I'll read like dark histories about horrible things that have happened in wars because I feel like there's real value there. But to me, like reading about serial killers, whatever, I'm sure some people get value out of it. I don't. And it just doesn't appeal to me at all.
You don't feel that natural curiosity when you find out there's a serial killer and then you find out there's a bunch of interviews with them trying to understand the psychology. Why did they do it? You don't find yourself wanting to know the answer to that question.
So I've done reading before and I've listened to podcasts about the psychology of serial killers. Intellectually, I find that interesting. I don't necessarily want to be pulled into the story of it, of like everything they did. I don't need to know all those details. Like I know some of them, right, from people discussing it from a psychological perspective. I find that like intellectual perspective more interesting. It's just not a story that I want to be pulled into.
You don't want to know the details of their crimes. Well, too bad. I'm going to read you some stuff right here. I was listening to a podcast years ago called Sword and Scale. And they go into gruesome detail. And their whole thing is just finding the most twisted, weird murder stories they can find. And I was listening, and it's actually turning my stomach. I'm like, I feel sick. And then I was like, why am I listening to this? But I will admit, there's a morbid curiosity where I was like, maybe I go back and listen to some more. Felt the same way about the No Sleep subreddit years ago. I got kind of hooked on it. Even started writing some of my own stories on there. And I think I have a little morbid curiosity in me that you don't have as much, which I think a lot of people have.
I really do believe that we are in large part a product of the media that we consume. And I will also just make a conscious choice to like be careful with what I consume. I just don't, again, like I mentioned that that Aaron Paul episode of Black Mirror, like that feeling has stuck with me. I don't want to pile on a bunch of things like that into my mind. Like I really, and I think it's partly like I'm pretty sensitive, right? Like I just don't want that in my mind. I much prefer to, be careful with the steps I take into that kind of darkness.
On that topic, I do have to say to everyone who enjoyed the Joan is awful episode, if you owe us an apology, because that episode was making a point about a part of its point was that people want to consume awful content. Like the reason we call it Joan is awful is because apparently you people all want to be fed negativity. And if you like the episode and agree with that message, you're agreeing that there is certain content that we get addicted to, which is bad for us mentally, which was the whole point we were making as part of our Succession conversation. And we weren't saying Succession falls into that category, but we were saying that there is certain content or art that we believe is bad for the person who made it and bad for the person consuming it. And if you like the Joan is awful episode, implicitly, you're agreeing with us.
So why do they owe us an apology?
Well, if
they disagreed with our point.
with us, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is why I'm the host, Gil.
Well, you basically dragged me kicking and screaming into this live stream because I was like, I don't want to talk about Black Mirror. All right. I only like to say positive things. My mother always told me, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything.
45 minutes of just silence, just sitting here.
Or our bad movie thumbnail for the Flash.
Clickbait, Gil. Clickbait. Yeah, somebody accused the title or in the thumbnail of bad movie ? To be clickbait.
Right.
Gil, would you like to respond?
The entire topic. I mean, everybody, not us, but everybody was saying bad movie. And so I was like, bad movie? Let's discuss.
And then we discussed it and we concluded, yes, bad movie.
It couldn't have been more accurate a thumbnail.
I think it was extremely accurate.
It did start as an exclamation point, and I changed it to a question mark.
And I think that was fair because you and I had not agreed yet that it's a bad movie. Often before a live stream, we like to avoid discussing the work we're going to be discussing to make sure our perspectives are fresh to each other.
Right.
And that's what we did with The Flash.
Yeah.
All right, Gil. Black Mirror. Obviously, the natural next topic is Disney World.
Yeah, I went to Disney World a week or two ago, and it was great. I took some notes while I was there, some anecdotes.
You're taking notes, Gil?
Writer strike.
Did the strike end?
Well, I am in negotiation to wrap up this whole WGA thing. What does Guy Incognito here say? It's not clickbait if nobody's mouth is wide open. Look out for the next episode. So I went to Disney World. And first off, when you get to Disney World, oh no, I'm going to skip that part. Okay, the hotel. I want you to help me out. You know about physics and stuff like that?
Yes. Did something paranormal happen in the hotel?
Yes.
Are we going to have an homage to our alien episode here? Did you see a UFO, a UAP?
Let me check my notes.
Control F UAP.
Okay.
Are you going to blow any whistles this episode, Gil?
Let's see here. No.
Nothing?
No.
All right. Should we even cover this topic?
Really, honestly, my notes here are really just a list of grievances and complaints.
Yeah, we haven't had a negative episode so far. So
why doesn't it work when I shave in a hotel?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like, or I hate elevators when you can't tell which one arrived. You hear the ding and you're like, where's the elevator?
Wait. Was it Adam who said this? I can't remember, but you got, I was also traveling and I got a lot of text messages from you guys during each of your moves to apartments. And one of you said something that was hilarious, which was, I keep banging my shin on furniture because I'm not used to where everything is.
Oh yeah. It's Adam. I feel like Adam's perpetually been in a state of, remember in Avatar when Jake Sully gets his new body and he's like stumbling everywhere? I think that's been Adam for about 20 years.
And then was it you who said that you guys need to get elbow and knee pads and shin guards?
Yeah, honestly, my elbows and knees are both killing me right now because I keep bumping into stuff.
I'm covered in so many cuts from like different things. I cannot wait until one day I feel like I have like what's the term? Like an unpunctured outer skin layer.
An unpunctured epidermis.
You know, that typical phrase people say.
Yeah. Let's see what else we have in my notes.
Do you have anything
here.
positive to say about Disney World, Gil? I have a lot of positive things.
The new Tron ride is awesome.
Oh, there's a Tron ride? That sounds very cool.
Yeah, you get on like a bike and it has a great initial acceleration. You're not moving, and then all of a sudden you're moving really fast.
Should we do the ad read quickly for Disney World?
You take it away.
I thought you were going to do the Mickey Mouse voice.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to talk about Disney World. I feel like we've given them enough free press already.
Okay.
So let's change topics to, I got something. Let's end on this. Okay?
We're ending?
We're going to end on this. So first we're going to talk about this, then we'll wrap it up.
You don't want me to talk about my trip?
Well, if you have stuff
you
to say
got somewhere to go?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'm going to live stream with Adam right after this.
To do a positive review of Black Mirror. Adam's like, I like the darkness. I like when it takes me there.
We should do it like, what was the name of that Choose Your Own Adventure Black Mirror episode?
I was going to say Adam likes the darkness because it's so positive compared to his normal thoughts.
Unless people are constantly banging their elbows and ankles on the show, then he's like, this doesn't compare to my life at all.
It's not. It doesn't feel realistic.
Yeah, Guy Incognito. Why is the host letting the sidekick decide when to end? Yeah, Daniel, why are you deciding when to end this.
What? All right, Gil, what did you want to quote unquote end this on?
Well, you like disagreeing with people, right? Like if everybody on the internet is saying one thing, you like to be the contrarian saying the other thing.
It's not true. I like when people agree with me.
Well, so I want to see if you're going to step on this third rail.
Okay.
I'm going to present you an opportunity. We'll see if you go the right way or not.
Why are my palms so sweaty?
Oh, before we get to that, I wanted to finish the sentence I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
What was the name of that Black Mirror episode that was Choose Your Own Adventure? Bandersnatch?
Bandersnatch.
We should do that for one take. Do you want to hear us say good things about the show or bad things? And we'll just record both versions.
I like that. For patrons only.
Secret Invasion.
Oh.
You know about this? It's the new Marvel show with Nick Fury. He's back, and he's better than ever. The opening credits of that show were generated by artificial intelligence. Go.
The opening credits? What is that?
You know how a lot of opening credits will have sort of...
Oh, like the visual effects.
Like postmodern, just like strange effects, things scrolling across the screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Did people dislike it?
Jobs. Right. Think about the optics. Right now, the WGA is on strike because they're worried that AI is going to take some of their jobs. The whole world is worried about this. And here comes Marvel, and they say, I don't care. And they auto-generate opening credits.
Do you really want me to step on this third rail?
Do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, have at it. If you can do something with AI instead of people, cool, try it.
Well, you disagree that it's bad optics?
Oh, is it bad optics? Yeah, I guess if everybody hates it, it's bad optics.
Well,
but...
that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people have a problem with it because they say it's bad optics. But if we all know it's bad optics, it's kind of like you're worried that it looks bad to somebody else.
Yeah, it's like recursive. Like everyone's like, well, I'm worried other people think it's bad. Does anyone actually think it's bad on their own?
Well, so here's the devil's advocate. Here is the defense for the opening credits. So Alun
says, can we replace Daniel with AI?
And then he capitalized the A and the I in your name. Here's the defense. So the creator of the show said that they wanted the opening credits to feel kind of invasive and alien because the whole premise of the show is that some aliens have shape-shifting aliens, Skrulls, have taken the place of certain important people in the government. And your friend might turn out to be a Skrull. It's invasive. And they wanted the opening credits to feel that way. And I would argue they accomplished that. It does feel invasive, and it's actually really pissed people off. So the devil's advocate is, why couldn't you have a person do that? A person could have drawn that. The response to that would be, not really. The actual underlying knowledge that the opening credits were created by an AI creates the invasive feeling.
Yeah, and also just the fact that the AI might create something that doesn't seem like something a human would have created.
Right.
And that's interesting.
So I guess...
Because, by the way, an AI is like imitating humans, right? So AIs do have a good way of achieving that uncanny valley effect.
Right, exactly. Now, I guess what I would say is that I've had the concern of AI taking over art and creating content like the TikTokification of movies. It just generates engineered movies to become addictive to you, and it just ruins art. I understand that concern totally, but I think there are limited use cases where AI just makes sense, and they use it already. For if you need to digitally touch up a movie after you've filmed it, it's more subtle, and you don't know that AI is involved, but there are places where they use it, right? To me, I would liken the starting to the South Park episode, where there's about 5 minutes of this episode written by ChatGPT. And it's explicitly written by ChatGPT. It's part of the joke. So it's sort of like, if the point is that it was made by AI, in that case for a joke, and in this case for an uncanny valley effect, I can't honestly say it bothers me. But if the argument is that it's bad optics, I mean, it is. Yeah. Everyone's worried about AI. And who are we most worried about using it? It would be big corporations like Disney. So it is bad optics. They shouldn't have done it. Idiots.
Yeah, and of course we can empathize with people whose jobs are threatened potentially by AI. But I do think, like any technology, if people can find valuable ways to use the technology, I think it's totally, they can go and do that. And typically when we use new technologies, it means more wealth for everybody, right? Like motorized vehicles, much better than the horse and buggy. Is it buggy? What is that?
Well, I don't know if it's true in every case.
Yeah, Black Mirror shows any technology you use will just create much more wealth and happiness for everyone.
I know it's happening. You know that when AI takes over, they're going to scour the internet to find out everything that was said about it. So you're just trying to...
Yeah, something basilisk. There's some like name for that theory that the AI is basically going to punish anyone who didn't support it.
Right. So this is you're peacocking.
Yeah.
You're like, I love AI. It's the future.
Every other episode from now on, I'm just going to wear a shirt.
If AI took all of our jobs, it would actually be better. We could be like the guys in Wall-E that just float around and don't do anything all day.
Doesn't that seem so nice?
It would have years ago, but not anymore. Because now I've discovered the joys of life, walking around and doing stuff, like going to Disney World. So
I thought you had nothing to say about Disney World.
No, I did the elevators. My editor, Greg, great guy, gave up on editing Succession because he was like, dude, I can't look at any more Succession clips. He actually edited 90% of it. Did a great job.
Yeah, he said that last 10 minutes, it's bigger than me.
There was one part. Okay, here, one Disney World anecdote. There is one ride, Buzz Lightyear, where you actually shoot at aliens. It's like
it's slingshot thing, right?
No, it's a laser gun, and it's kind of like connected to the chair, so you just kind of move it around like this. One pro tip on that, by the way, you don't have to repeatedly pull the trigger. You can just hold it down and it rapid fires. So there's these little tiny targets and all these different animatronic aliens. You slowly move through the ride, and I was really good at it. Like I would pick a target. See, I think the problem is a lot of people were trying to shoot a lot of different targets. I would just pick one. And if you hit it once, you're moving so slow, you can just slowly adjust your angle to just hit that target over and over and over. So afterward, I definitely had the highest score, like by a lot. Like somebody was like, I got 20,000. I was like, try 480,000. I even took a picture of it to prove it. I'm worried that I was a little too proud of it. And like it became obvious. Like I had this smile on my face. Like I did the best at Buzz Lightyear. Like somebody, so we had this VIP pass. So we had a couple of guides. It was a large group. So we were able to kind of, spread the wealth a little bit. So we had these two VIPs taking us around. You could skip a lot of the lines. And so, one of the guides, she asked like one person, what was your score? And they're like 20,000. And she was like, what about you, Gil? And I was like, 480,000. She's like, 480,000. I was like, yeah. And then I wonder if maybe I came off as a little arrogant. Like I'll be honest, I wanted credit for it.
Yeah, like if she didn't call on you, you would have been seething. Like somebody asked me what my score was.
Like, what'd you get on the Buzz Lightyear track?
You curious what I got?
Like, I don't remember what I got. I'm like, was it like hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands? Like she asked somebody like who got the highest score. And I'll admit, I was disappointed when we walked off. I assumed there'd be like a scoreboard or something, and there wasn't. So she asked somebody who got the highest, and they're like, oh, I don't know. She's like, oh, well, you guys have to compare, And I was like, yeah, we should compare our scores. But we don't even need to compare. I know I got the highest score. So I'm the winner. Host. What are you doing?
I'm hosting. Well, I think it's pretty concerning, Gil.
Yeah.
I don't know. What else? You got nothing else?
No, I think I'm going to be on Hack the Movies tonight. So
exciting.
Go to the Hack the Movies YouTube channel. They do different movies or TV, and they talk about movies every week, basically, as a podcast. But once a month, Tony, the host, does a live stream where they go through the various movies or shows that they didn't cover in the podcast. So I think I'll be chiming in on Across the Spider-Verse and maybe one or two other things. So that's going to be cool.
All right. Well, then I think we can wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please, if you're not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe, like this video, leave a comment. If you want to listen to this with your ears instead of listening with your eyes, well, then you can subscribe to us on any podcast app. And please, if you do, we would greatly appreciate if you leave a positive rating 5-star. I think it's usually at a 5.
Out
I
of
hope.
6. 5.
Please leave a good rating. And if you want to be extra special, please leave a review. It really helps a ton to get us a bigger audience. We've been doing this every week for, I don't know, maybe 2 months now.
We missed 1 week, though we did record, but it hasn't been released yet.
Yes. And so it's been a lot of fun. Thank you everybody for watching, and see you on the next One Take.